Ferrari, a name that once sent chills down the spines of their rivals, is now under heavy fire. The expectations were sky high at the start of the season, but somehow, things didn't go as planned. They had the car, the speed, and the early advantage. Still, what followed left fans frustrated and critics louder than ever. After a promising beginning, the red team found themselves slipping, and fast. Out of the last 10 races, they managed to win just 2, in Austria and France, the rest filled with poor choices and mechanical failures. Charles Leclerc, once leading the title race, now trails Max Verstappen by a massive 80 points. How did it come to this? Every finger is now pointing at one man, Mattia Binotto. His decisions, or the lack of better ones, have raised serious doubts about whether he should still be leading the team. And with the summer break arriving, the big question is floating around. Will Ferrari decide to move on from Binotto before the season resumes? Before jumping to that, let's take a step back and understand why this downfall hurts more than usual. Yes, Ferrari is currently second in the constructors' standings, their best position since 2018, but that doesn't tell the full story. This team had everything going for them: form, talent, machinery, yet they're falling apart. Under pressure. Ferrari kicked off their season with a near-perfect performance. When both Red Bulls failed to finish due to engine troubles, Leclerc and Sainz took full advantage, locking out the top 2 positions and announcing Ferrari's comeback in style. Even before the races began, during testing, their pace looked sharp and their car seemed balanced. Expectations weren't just high, they were sky-rocketing. In the second race, Leclerc chased Verstappen to the line and finished second. Then came Australia, where Charles controlled the entire weekend, turning in a dominant win while Verstappen was forced to retire again with a fuel pump issue. At this stage it wasn't even close. Leclerc had built up a massive 46-point lead over Max. In fact, Verstappen was third in the standings with just 25 points after 3 rounds. Even Max admitted that their car wasn't close to championship standard yet, which gave Ferrari fans all the hope in the world. Was this finally going to be the year? Could the team break the long drought and bring home the title for the first time since 2007? But racing doesn't always follow a straight path. Slowly, momentum began to swing the other way. In Miami, Charles missed out on victory. In Imola, he spun off and dropped from P3 to P6. Meanwhile, Max was back to winning, and that shift wasn't just temporary. It was the start of a trend that would continue race after race. Some of the most painful moments for Leclerc and Ferrari came during 3 back-to-back races: Monaco, Barcelona, and Baku. These weren't just missed podiums, they were lost chances that could have changed the course of the championship. In Monaco, Leclerc started from pole position on his home turf. Everything looked set for a dream result, but as the track began to dry, confusion struck. The team's call on when to change tires went completely wrong. Leclerc, who had been leading comfortably, got stuck in a messy pit stop strategy. What made things worse was that he didn't lose the lead on track, he lost it in the pits. Carlos Sainz, ignoring team instructions, went straight to the hard tires, while Leclerc followed the initial call to go for intermediates. The timing didn't work out, and by the time everything settled, Leclerc was down to 4th. Not only had he lost the win, but he was also beaten by both Red Bulls and his own teammates. Then came Barcelona and Baku, both ending in retirements for Leclerc and Baku. Sainz also had to abandon the race due to a hydraulics issue. Red Bull didn't waste the opportunity. Verstappen claimed wins in both races, with Perez close behind. The damage was growing not just in points, but in confidence. Ferrari, once in command, was starting to look lost, as if things weren't bad enough. Montreal brought another blow. Leclerc had to take a grid penalty after installing a new engine, starting from the very back. Despite that, he showed some solid pace and climbed his way up to P5. Sainz, on the other hand, finished second, a much-needed result, but Verstappen took the win again, tightening his grip on the championship. Silverstone was supposed to be Ferrari's moment to bounce back. Red Bull wasn't having a good weekend. Verstappen suffered damage early in the race after running over debris, and Perez had to work his way from the back. Yet, Ferrari found a way to spoil their own race once more. A late safety car presented a golden opportunity. Instead of giving Leclerc the fresher soft tires, they pitted Sainz, leaving Charles out on worn rubber while his rivals were on fresh tires. Predictably, Perez and Hamilton breezed past him. Even Sainz, who was told to defend, refused to hold position and went ahead. Leclerc finished 4th, not because he lacked speed, but because the team's decisions left him completely exposed. One by one, these moments added up. Each race weekend brought more questions than answers. While Ferrari showed glimpses of potential, their errors were becoming too frequent to ignore. Austria brought a flicker of hope. Leclerc secured a much-needed win, and Ferrari's improved straight-line performance suggested that the team had finally figured out one of their major weaknesses. Red Bull had been dominating in high-speed sections, but Ferrari now looked more balanced, especially on circuits with long straights. But just when things started to look promising, France flipped the script again. Leclerc, leading the race, lost control and went straight into the barriers. It was a shocking error, not one caused by the car or the strategy, but pressure. After climbing out, Leclerc took full responsibility, and the frustration on his face said it all. Meanwhile, Binotto faced a fresh wave of criticism for another controversial call. Sainz, who had just pulled off a great move to overtake Perez, while on old medium tires, was immediately called into the pits. That decision came as a surprise to many, including former world champions Nico Rosberg and Damon Hill, who felt Sainz could have stayed out and created enough of a gap to cover the 5-second penalty he had to serve. Instead, the pit stop dropped him back, and although he managed the fastest lap, he finished only 5th. Another race, another opportunity gone, not because of the driver's lack of effort, but due to timing and choices from the pit wall that simply didn't add up. Hungary was the final round before the summer break, a chance to reset the narrative. Qualifying went well for Ferrari, with Sainz securing P2 and Leclerc P3. George Russell shocked everyone by grabbing his first pole, while both Red Bulls faced setbacks, starting outside the top 10 due to various issues. Ferrari's strategy was simple: begin on medium compound tires and go for a two-stop approach. But what unfolded during the race had fans and analysts scratching their heads. At the second pit stop, Ferrari decided to fit Leclerc's car with hard compound tires, despite the fact that Alpine had already shown how poorly those tires were performing earlier in the race. That choice immediately cost them. Leclerc's pace dropped sharply, and he began to lose positions rapidly. First came Verstappen, then Russell. Ferrari realized their mistake too late and brought Leclerc back in for soft tires. But by then, the damage had been done. Even with a faster setup, he didn't have enough laps left to recover. Perez passed him during the pit window, and Leclerc could only manage P6. Sainz, despite being on a more favorable strategy, was overtaken by Hamilton and finished off the podium. Another Grand Prix, another set of confusing decisions, and more pressure on Ferrari's leadership for not learning from earlier missteps. With the summer break in full swing, Ferrari's situation doesn't just look shaky, it's borderline. Alarming. The team, once holding all the momentum, now finds itself 80 points behind Verstappen in the drivers' standings and trailing Red Bull by 97 in the Constructors' Championship. But what stings even more is the sudden surge from Mercedes. In the last couple of races, Russell and Hamilton have been consistently on the podium, and the Silver Arrows are now just 30 points behind Ferrari. This isn't just about lost wins anymore. It's about Ferrari risking second place, 2, and 8. That's turning up the heat on team principal Mattia Binotto. Fans, pundits, and even former drivers are questioning whether he's still the right person to guide the team forward. It's not just one-off mistakes, it's a pattern. Whether it's tire choices, pit stop timing, or simply reacting too slowly to race dynamics, Ferrari's decision-making has become a recurring issue. The man at the center of Ferrari's strategies, Iñaki Rueda, is also under fire, though Binotto publicly defends the team's approach, saying they've gotten most calls right and just made a few mistakes. Many disagree. Even Charles Leclerc has hinted at the growing frustration within the team, stating that something always seems to go wrong. Now the big question: will Ferrari make a change before the second half of the season begins? Rumors are growing that Binotto might not return after the break, with insiders like Ralf Schumacher openly saying he's at risk of losing his job. For a team with the kind of history Ferrari has, being this close to a title fight and letting it slip away is hard to accept. As we look ahead, one thing's clear: Ferrari has the talent and the machinery to fight for championships. But without smart, confident leadership and sharper execution, all that potential could go to waste. The second half of the season will either be their comeback story or the confirmation that change is overdue. Now it's your turn. Do you think Ferrari should stick with Binotto or make a bold move before it's too late?